Since the creation of the Constitution of the Republic of China in 1947, Taiwan has slowly progressed towards the establishment of an independent state, much to the chagrin of the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party, who believe Taiwan to be an extension of themselves. Rather than accept the inevitability of Taiwan's independence, the PRC has continued to apply pressure to Taiwan, directly and indirectly, trying every possible strategy to force the island towards unification. One of China's most obvious and extensive strategies to move towards unification is its constant interference in Taiwanese elections. Despite these efforts, however, Taiwan has managed to maintain its democracy and remains unaffected by China's influence. The One China policy is a term that refers to the PRC's desire to unify with Taiwan. One country, two systems is a term that also refers to unification, but more loosely, acknowledging that Taiwan has developed its own political system and society separate from mainland China, and it is this term that has been used by current Chinese President Xi Jinping. The original Constitution of the Republic of China, enacted in Nanjing in 1947, was in fact written for mainland China, and was brought to the island by then ruling nationalist Kuomintang Party after they were defeated in the Chinese Civil War and fled. At the time, the leader of the KMT, Chiang Kai-shek, treated Taiwan as a temporary military base, wherein he attempted to re-Sinicize the residents and induce a Chinese identity. His efforts were unsuccessful, and over the past 70 years, the Taiwanese people have gradually renounced Chinese identity and constructed an identity of their own. Unlike China's single-party system, where the Chinese Communist Party controls virtually all aspects of government, Taiwan has constructed a multi-party system, with a clear separation of powers, that conducts fair and well-managed elections. The differences between Taiwan and mainland China could not be more stark, yet the PRC persists in its mission to absorb Taiwan. This desire for unification has had a profound effect on China's geopolitics, particularly its relationship with the United States. Over the course of Taiwan's history, a very tenuous relationship was formed between the US, China, and Taiwan. In 1954, the US formed a mutual defense treaty with Taiwan, and therefore positioned itself early on as being in support of Taiwan's independence, recognizing it as its own state. Since then, the US has constantly fluctuated in its support of Taiwan and its support of the PRC. Communication and diplomacy between the US and Taiwan has, on several occasions, sparked retaliation and threats from China. This love triangle continues to be relevant today, with tensions only continuing to grow into the 2010s and 20s. In 2021, The Economist named Taiwan the most dangerous place on Earth, due to the clear capabilities of China to enact violence, and the uncertainty of whether or not they would. The Pelosi crisis of 2022 saw China issuing threats of force and performing military drills in a clear attempt to intimidate, motivated by U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi visiting Taiwan. This visit was interpreted by China as an endorsement of Taiwan's independence and recognition of the territory as being its own state. In 2025's political landscape, where the relationship between the U.S. and China is constantly being debated and scrutinized, Taiwan has continued to be incredibly relevant. The political landscape of the tiny island has a profound effect on global superpowers like China and the US, making the outcomes of Taiwanese elections very significant. In 2020, China's main method of interference was a campaign of misinformation. Tsai Ing-wen, elected as Taiwan's 14th president in 2016, belonged to the Democratic Progressive Party, a party whose objectives and values stood against China's desires. During Tsai's re-election campaign, Chinese operatives spread a rumor that President Tsai's doctoral degree was falsified because she was slow to produce her diploma and transcript when questioned. This rumor was just one of many contentious issues that China brought up, including false information regarding queer Taiwanese blood donors spreading HIV, and the Taiwanese government using pension funds to bring in Japanese and Korean tourists. It is telling that in order to get the island to move in the direction of unification, the Chinese government has to lie. Unification has nothing to do with the true desires of the Taiwanese people, or the betterment of quality of life for everyone. China also launched a smear campaign against a defected Chinese spy, William Wang, who blew the whistle on China's attempts to interfere in Taiwanese elections. He alleged that the operation included the creation of internet companies to spread misinformation and target individuals. In response, China attempted to paint Wang as a convicted criminal, and published several front-page propaganda stories in mainstream newspapers like the China Times. China's political strategy in 2020 exemplifies the usage of sharp power, the creation of political pressure through harassment, targeted attacks, and misinformation, rather than changing the minds of voters conventionally by offering them something that they actually want. It is clear that the people of Taiwan have no desire to unify with mainland China. Ogasawara Yoshiyuki, who authored a thorough analysis of the election, splits the Chinese interference tactics of 2024 into two categories: North Winds and Suns. The North Winds are China's attempts at exercising their sharp power, i.e. shows of force, threats of military violence, diplomatic pressure on allies such as the US, targeted attacks, and misinformation campaigns. In 2024, these misinformation campaigns are strengthened by the advent of AI. A prominent strategy for misinformation is the creation of confusion, and AI allows Chinese operatives to generate misleading imagery at an alarming rate. The Suns, however, are China's attempts at bribing the people of Taiwan. In 2024, China invited Taiwanese chairpersons en masse to travel to China, where they were entertained by Chinese officials, given food and accommodation, and asked to campaign in favor of China upon returning home. Taiwanese investigation found 156 cases involving 354 people, which is not an insignificant number. China has also attempted to leverage themselves economically over Taiwan using a similar tactic, offering generous pay and benefits to Taiwanese academics, scientists, and thinkers in exchange for moving to China. Despite the immense amount of pressure and constant barrage of attacks on Taiwan's democracy, the Taiwanese people continue to elect presidents who stand against unification and have the best interests of Taiwan in mind. The island has many safeguards against election interference, such as the Anti-Infiltration Act of 2020, which puts measures into place ensuring that communication and investments with foreign agents are transparent. Taiwan has also amended the Political Parties Act, requiring all registered political parties to report their finances annually. Additionally, there is a large effort on the part of all of civil society to counteract misinformation campaigns. Companies like Cofacts, Taiwan Fact Check Center, and Doublethink Lab work closely with large companies like Facebook to identify and remove misinformation from social media. For even more security, Taiwan has banned government procurement of communications technologies from Chinese companies like Lenovo. In our modern world, the careful moderation of technology has proved to be the key for preserving democracy. One of Taiwan's most profound strengths in the face of political interference is their incredibly well-managed election process. Their elections have been described as unhackable due to them being done on clear, organized paper ballots and counted manually by real people. Taiwan has one of the lowest percentages of spoiled ballots in the world, at only 1 to 2%. However, the technological and administrative boundaries that have been put in place are not the only thing standing in the way of China's interference. The political atmosphere in Taiwan is staunchly against unification. In 2024, every candidate on the ballot openly opposed the one country, two systems idea. The Taiwanese people are not swayed by either the North Winds or the Suns of the Chinese Communist Party. As Carice Templeman puts it, even after almost 25 years of trying, the CCP still struggles to understand how best to influence public opinion in Taiwan. The fierce pressure, sharp power, and displays of violence have only served to worsen Taiwanese opinion of unification. It is obvious that the Chinese Communist Party considers it to be unjust that a territory with an undoubtedly Chinese constitution is not under their control. The question stands: how does Taiwan's constitution affect and reflect the nation's struggle for independence and its tenuous relationship with the PRC? Although the constitution of the ROC is supposed to be considered supreme law in Taiwan, in a practical sense, many of the realities of Taiwan are not reflected in the constitution, and currently, Taiwanese lawmakers are presenting many changes and amendments that could be made to the document. The constitution was written for an entirely different territory and brought to the island by the KMT, meaning that much of the Constitution is entirely irrelevant. Interestingly, the One China policy may be enshrined into the Constitution in Article 11. Rights and obligations between the people of the Chinese mainland area and those of the Free Area, and the disposition of other related affairs may be specified by law. The PRC interprets this sentence to mean that the free area, referring to Taiwan, has a legal obligation to and is ruled by mainland China. This discrepancy is uncomfortable to Taiwanese citizens who do not identify as Chinese, and therefore are motivated to draft an entirely new constitution. However, such an action would surely be interpreted by the PRC as a fierce assertion of independence, and could come with violent military consequences. The people of Taiwan, though strongly in favor of independence, are walking a difficult line of bettering their country while also narrowly avoiding the wrath of the CCP. Over time, the China question is slowly becoming less and less relevant in Taiwan's political landscape. A candidate's opinion on unification used to be a major deciding factor for voters, but now the majority of politicians are anti-unification and are in favor of maintaining the status quo. The Taiwanese government and civil society as a whole has managed to defend themselves sufficiently from China's constant pressure and targeted attacks, which is a testament to their will as a people and the strength of Taiwanese national identity. If the history of the island gives us any indication, and if China is unable to change their strategy and gain an understanding of how to influence Taiwanese citizens, then it seems as if independence is in the island's future.